environment. And here I list some typical character of gaming, or we call it policy games, to see why it works. And in my PhD research, I have some whole argument. First, because there are so much different games, so no any one simulation game models can realize all of these characters. The characters I listed here, yeah, they all can be somewhere in the game, but there's no any one game can make all this happen. So if you develop a game, so I think basically a lot of people, because if you are really fascinated and being passionate about game, you believe game can do anything, everything. Yeah, principally it can, but practically until now there's no any game or simulation can do that. So in general case, either a simulation go this way or a game go that way. But you hardly can find any good combination of both dimensions. So the design of simulation game is to select some of the characters that can serve the main purpose. Maybe the game is not perfect, but if it is good enough to serve the main point and the purpose, then it is already a very good game. And in order to have such a good game design and the usage, it is very necessary to also understand the planning culture and the needs of the policy program. If you do not understand the field, yeah, and even you design a perfect game, may totally not being used or not useful for the field experience. That's also the reason why I want to frame the policymakers and scientists in a different planning culture and the policy cultures to see how do they appreciate and how do they understand what is the useful of gaming. So this is the main questions I involved in my book. To meaning to understand what is the relevance of gaming simulation for integrated policy analysis and how do different planning regions influence the role of playing. In my dissertation, I mainly did 3 case studies to do that. So I just said to doing a research about this is really complicated. So and we do not have already providable methodology to help us to do that. So I'm thinking, okay, how about to combine a different method to help us to understand and use the data and the evidence from a different case and a different situation. So what I did is I first did a kind of, I do not know whether you know a little bit about Q methodology. This is a kind of structured method to interview people and to understand what I'm thinking. It's a method of framing. So I use this to actually implement the framing of gaming to see how different people from different backgrounds they understand and the usefulness of gaming and how the similarity of their ideas can be clustered into one category to represent something. Now I will not introduce this Q methodology here, but if you are interested, then there's a lot of literatures available. So I did actually around 30 papers in a Dutch management system about opinions and also about 20 Chinese water managers and scientists in China's city. The reason why I did less in China is because it's more difficult there. They're just too busy, and every time I really need to persuade them to do something. And also, in the Netherlands, gaming for policymaking is much more common. So even some of the water managers and the policymakers, they didn't play it, but they are very familiar with the concept. So there's no difficult to talk with them about how do you think about the game or things. Even he didn't play himself, he can just tell a story about his friends and colleagues too. But when I try to find out how things can go in China, actually I found most difficult is not that they are lacking of experience, but they are lacking of this open mind. That's interesting, because in China, actually, gaming is also a popular topic. It's just like in South Korea, I see this. I just visited the Good Game Show. Oh my God, this really huge exhibition. Oh, there's a lot of people playing. In China, it's the same. The kids and the young generations, they are involved a lot in game. And there's also this simulation and model and things also involved being talked about in public administration field. But actually, when you go deeper to talk to people there, you still find resistant. You still find, okay, they are very careful and reluctant to really talk about it, especially the soft part. If you talk about technology, if you talk about simulation, wisdom, how the simulation model can simulate the long-term uncertainty about environmental change and things, okay, it's easier. But if you try to combine the soft part, the social part about, okay, how can we develop this interactive, integrated policy analysis, as we talk a lot in the Western society, then they immediately become much more sensitive. That's very interesting to observe, because in recent years, I think a lot of Dutch professionals and also policy sectors, they are trying hard to have cooperative projects with Chinese, because it's a large field and a lot of interest. It's really a lot of interest, but hardly any concrete things going on, especially when we want to use more gaming part of simulation to involve people, then hardly anything has been done. And because I'm personally, during these years in my research, I involved a couple of this research, I also feel, even I am local, I'm a Chinese myself, and if I went with my Dutch colleague and we try to discuss and talk this gaming issue with the Chinese colleagues, I also found this difficult. It's not about language, it's about idea, how they understand. So when you talk about policy games and game simulations, from words, from the tool and the technology itself, they understand. But from acceptance and really understand and appreciate the things behind it, that's difficult. But finally, I managed to interview generally to our Chinese colleagues, and I clustered 4 frames about how they think game can be used in the future development of China. And what made me happy is all of them believe in the long term that will be a glorious future of gaming. There's no doubt. And all of them believe that China is moving towards a very interactive, very participatory environment. But still, how long it will take, nobody knows. And this makes the frames different, because some people, I found most people that they have overseas education background of New York, and their ideas influenced by the Western ideas, they are more enthusiastic about, okay, we really need that, it's really useful. But for most of the mainstream traditional policymakers they are more reluctant and careful about. I think it's very understandable, right? So we can see here, as a conclusion, is policy regime in modern China has not been changed too far yet, but it is changing. We can see that. And in policy environment where power game and hierarchical is still dominating, the level of stakeholder participation and social involvement is still lower. So if people start to talk about, okay, how we can use game to increase participation and things, but still in practice, we didn't see so much happen. And the sustainability has linked with integration of a stronger sense of technology development. So if we talk about, okay, how can we use simulation gaming to support sustainable plan and support integrated policy analysis, immediately most people were thinking about the technological part. So okay, do you have any? What they are very interested in is what the Western expert, Dutch expert, can provide them the fascinating tech knowledge about simulation games. How they are very interested in 3D presentation and on the simulation to present an uncertain future. And if the policymakers see that, they can be immediately interested in this tool and to make the business plan even go further. But if you talk about or start talk about of game with participation, with the soft things, then in most of the case, then your business is done. Yeah, this not so much related to research, but it's also for the people that would like to go and do something about gaming in China. That's interesting. Okay, and this is another case. I didn't refer it in my paper, but this is also interesting. We developed a game called Integrated Marine Spatial Planning, and we played it with international people from different culture areas, so we can see if the people from different cultures, they play together to develop integrated plan together. So what can happen and how the cultural difference and the professional background difference can influence the way they make the integrated plan together. And also, one of the most fascinating result is actually if people have a very smooth participatory interactive process, it doesn't guarantee a good result. And in most cases, if that happens, people they have a party, they like each other, and they talk, and it's okay. But a lot of core values of sustainability might be being trade off. And instead, if you have a little bit conflicting but manageable conflicts, you still can preserve the core value of how can we make a plan of development more sustainable than others. So, this is my last slides. My general conclusion about this is gaming is really, it does not do anything of everything, but it's really worth to do it. Because I think compared to regard gaming as a tool, like as a hammer, you can use hammer for everything. But I think that's not the most important thing for gaming. I think what people might ignore is really gaming is about a spirit, it's about the idea of life. If we can make policymakers play more games, it doesn't really matter what they play, but it might play more can make them more easy and enjoy and thinking in a different way. And from this perspective, playing games can contribute more about policymaking and interaction when we're talking about social and technical integration. Okay, thank you very much. That's the story I want to share with you.
Thank you, Ms. Zhou. But I'd like to comment to answer some of your questions. Because I do my research as well, studying why nobody do the games I want them to do. The quick answer is because you do not make the games yourself. As you can see, most of the people there, they are making games for money. And do you believe people will pay money to buy your game?
In some cases, yes. Not all the case, but for example, one of the marine spatial planning games is on the demand.
Okay. How much would you expect them to play your game?
Not
and how much would you spend to develop the game? Because I myself is a game developer, and game making costs a lot of money. I always remember when I was working with a group of game developers in Dundee, Scotland. They spent £500 million to develop a game called APB, and it flopped. So a lot of venture capitalists bankrupt. So 300 people lost their job overnight, begging for jobs to survive. So it's a very scary thing, especially when they develop something that nobody wants to play and nobody wants to buy. So perhaps you have to convince the game developers or to develop the things that you believe can engage people. But the dilemma to that is sometimes game developers they do not like the concept of serious game. In fact, they hate serious game because the word serious defeats the purpose of the game itself. Because game to them has to be fun, and fun is contradicting with the concept of serious. So that's one of the issues that I see. And after all, the only people that will read your thesis, as I always tell my students, the PhD students, are your supervisors and the PhD examiners. Whatever you write in future development, okay, you claim that you make conclusion, okay, this game will be fantastic in the future. It's you who are going to do it in the future. So I really hope that one day you take over, work with the game developers that can make good games. It matters what the policymakers play. It matters. Okay, so you have to, before your game is ready, you have to choose good games for them to play, so they have a good perception, okay, good feeling on games before your game is ready. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, thank you.
I have a question, and then maybe a comment. But I
well,
come from the Netherlands as well.
Okay.
So, spreek je Nederlands?
Ja.
Oké, ik ben niet de echte Nederlander, maar kan ik best wel doen.
Ik ben ook niet echt Nederland, dus maakt niet uit.
Are you familiar with the Burgemeester game?
Burgemeester, yeah, I heard about that.
Okay. I was the game designer for the Burgemeester game.
Oh,
and it actually, so kind of going to who's going to pay for it, they pay about 600 euros per game code to get into it. And it's also accompanied with a workshop, so it's not just the game, but it's the workshop's built around the game. And it's very similar to this idea of policy making and so forth, because it's not just about training at the end of the day, it's about understanding how policies are made in the moment of crisis situations in the Netherlands. And there's many scenarios that revolve around flooding, but also family crises within the city, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, because in this couple of years, I really see. I think in the Netherlands, there's Policymakers is kind of popular. Yeah. Compared to a lot of other countries, and still Policymakers.
Well, more than 50% of our game companies in the Netherlands produce serious supply games, so it's not a surprise.
Yes, that's also the reason why they are interested in the Chinese market now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I hope my story can contribute a little bit to your career if you have some future plan to go to China.
Okay,
discuss more later.
Yeah, you can discuss later. So now we have our